Hello and welcome back to goldstocktrades.com. Today we have with us a special guest, Reza Mohammed, Exploration Manager of Athabasca Uranium. Athabasca Uranium can be traded as UAX on the venture, and it also can be traded as ATURF on the OTC. Thanks, Reza, for being here with us today.
Thank you very much.
Reza, can you give us a background on this Keith Lake property, how Athabasca Uranium got the property, and what sort of work has been done on the property?
Yeah, I mean, the Keith Lake project, of course, is Athabasca's flagship. And this property was most recently worked on by Mega Uranium. In 2007 and 2008, Mega optioned it, and they spent $2 million doing a very expensive seismic survey, and they built a lot of roads on the property, and they also flew $1 million worth of airborne MAG-EM surveys. Both of these surveys were Mega got the preliminary interpretation on the airborne, but they never got interpretation on their seismic. They had I think there was a funding issue, and they weren't able to complete the interpretation. So unfortunately, while they spent all this money on the survey, they never actually got the final results. Then during the market crash of 2008, they let the property go back to the vendor. And when the opportunity presented itself, Athabasca was very quick off the mark, and they grabbed up the property for a substantial discount, because obviously this property now has over $3 million worth of work on it, and they were able to take advantage of I think they did a share and some cash deal, but it was very, very much to their advantage. So basically, they've optioned the property, and the scope of work on it is really it's the kind of thing that if Athabasca had to do this work themselves, they'd have to spend probably 2 to 3 years to get this work done. In fact, this particular seismic company that did it was the same one that did Hathaway's work, which was of course pivotal to them discovering the Roughrider deposit. The company is called Kinetics. And Kinetics they've worked at MacArthur. They've discovered the P2 deposit. They've worked at Millennium. The system is also used by Hathaway extensively in one of their other projects, which is the Southwestern project, yes. So, again, Athabasca got an incredible lift when they picked up the property, and when they engaged the university, Zoten Heinel, to do the final interpretation, everybody was astonished by the results, because most of us are very familiar with, looking at seismic for oil and gas. We're used to seeing the structures and differentiating between water and oil. But for hard rock, it's a bit of a stretch. Most geologists have never seen this sort of work before. To be honest, I had never seen a seismic survey of this quality. And what the university has done is they do an inversion on the data set, and they're able to predict with incredible accuracy the faults. We know how good the accuracy is because we drilled off it last year, and we hit the alteration zone on our very first hole. Again, this was something Hathaway enjoyed after they had used the seismic as an integrating tool to integrate all of their information. They were able to hit on 70% of their holes. So you can imagine that at $150,000 a hole, that gives you a great savings. MacArthur River took over 200 holes to find. A Millennium, approximately 200 holes. So we're saving a ton of money by doing the seismic.
So
go ahead, yeah.
Reza, can you tell us a little bit about the results that were released in late 2011 about the alteration, and can you explain to us what that means for you guys going forward in the exploration program?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the best thing you can possibly find, the best thing you can possibly find when you're drilling is an alteration zone. What that basically means is there's some sort of plumbing system that leads deep into the earth that is giving you a pathway through which hot epithermal fluids can flow, and these can bring uranium. They can scour uranium and redeposit it and concentrate it in different areas. Without an alteration zone, if you don't hit an alteration zone, you are never going to find a deposit, because the alteration zone is basically like a watermark. It's a halo. And when you find altered rock, you know that you're in the vicinity where you can make a discovery. The alteration zone we found bore a lot of similar. I mean, of course, all alteration zones they have a fingerprint. They're all a little bit different. There aren't any two alteration zones in the basin that are identical, but they all share common features. For example, we are finding that our zone has a lot of similarities with McArthur River. McArthur River has the richest ore on the planet. Last time I checked, it was $1,500 a ton rock. They had at their deposit a quartz ridge, and this quartz ridge had to be produced under extremely high temperatures. We also have quartz in our alteration zone. They have a very, very intense silicification of rock. We also have the same thing. We also have, in our very first hole, at the very bottom of the hole, we did get gamma radiation. And that gamma radiation was, I don't have the exact figures in front of me, but it was substantially higher than its surface. Mm-hmm. So we know we're in the ballpark. The significance would be for the layperson to understand that in order to find something to drone, you have to at least be on the board. We always liken it to the game of Battleship. You have to at least find the battleship board before you can find the ship you're searching for. With our very first hole, we found the battleship. We found that grid. And with 3 out of our 5 holes, we intersected anomalous alteration. So we know now that we are in the right ballpark. We could be 1 hole away from hitting a deposit. That's how nice this alteration is. Mm-hmm. But of course, what we have to do is we have to go back to the science that led us to this. We have to reinterpret the seismic, take the time and trouble to recalibrate it based on the geological layers that we now have that we didn't even have before. Basically, what we're saying is certain rocks, by looking at the seismic, we can say that certain rocks now have a certain reflective property. We can go back and retool the seismic and look for anomalies, look for the dense uranium pocket. So again, I could not have been happier with those results. I mean, the only thing better than what we hit would have been uranium itself. And I don't think there's ever been a program in the planet that's ever hit uranium on the first hole. So we're going to go back in very vigorously now with all this intel and having interpreted the data over the last few months. And we're going to, again, use the seismic to its best advantage, the reinterpreted seismic, and we're going to hopefully we're hoping that we are actually going to hit something. You know, the expectation in the office, in our exploration office, is not that we're going to find more alteration. We're drifting to find ore. That's the name of our game right now.
Razy,
so again, go ahead.
Yeah, Razy, you just came back from the you were up in Athabasca, north Athabasca Basin in northern Saskatchewan. Can you tell us, since the Rio takeover acquisition of Hathor, have you noticed a change in the basin?
Well, there definitely is. I mean, you know, Rio Tinto is one of the largest mining companies on the planet, and their entry into the basin brought a huge spotlight into the basin. Even at PDAC, there was a real frenzy around uranium. The word joint venture is a new buzzword. Everybody's looking for a piece of ground in the basin. There are companies that are in the Northwest Territories that have deposits right now that are looking to joint venture in the basin because it has a longer and more viable season, and the deposits are much, you know, the economics of the deposits and the feasibility are much more positive. But what we're seeing here is, and this is common knowledge to any uranium junior right now, is Rio Tinto has taken the time and trouble to introduce itself around to the junior that it likes right now. Athabasca Uranium had meetings with Rio Tinto. There are no agreements and there are no material changes, but we've into Rio, and they have chatted with us. And I think their intention right now, I mean, I can't imagine, and I'm speculating here, I can't imagine that they come into the basin just for Hathor's deposit. I can't imagine that that's all they've come for. That would be too short-sighted for a large company like Rio. The general talk around the campfire, PDAC, and elsewhere is that Rio may have come for more. They may have come to consolidate a position in a jurisdiction where they feel that uranium can be safely produced and mined. I do not think that Africa is going to be a safe and viable jurisdiction in the long term. You know, Canada has shown, especially in northern Saskatchewan, they have the infrastructure, they have the technical people, they have you can permit, and again, you're in a favorable, safe, you know, jurisdiction that I think also has a great promise for America. I mean, if you listen to Obama or you listen to my friend Mitt Romney, they're all speaking about uranium. I mean, Obama just permitted 2 new reactors. So I think Rio is also seeing that as well, that America really needs to focus on domestic energy production, and the Athabasca Basin, obviously Canada is not the United States, but it is still North American production. So yes, I mean, the effect of Rio, I think, is more of a validation of what the Athabasca Basin is.
Well, thanks, Reza, for being here with us today and giving us some insight into Athabasca uranium and into the Athabasca Basin.
That's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me, Jeb.